Good day, everyone. This is John Scarborough. I wanted to show y'all something. I did a little video on this little spot here earlier this year when the grass was really growing well. And this little spot was a washout. I'm going to put a link in the description of the video that I'm talking about. But you could see how well this had grown up, this little washout. It was really bad out in there. Y'all gonna have to excuse my voice. I'm starting to get a little cold with this change of weather. But so this was a bad washout, and it has really grown in and prevented a lot of washouts, and I mean a lot more further washout. I don't know if you can tell by looking at it, but you can see where a lot of water has already run down through this little spot in here. And I won't go all the way down there, but all the way down through it, you can tell that it went down in there, and it normally would have carried some soil with it, and it did not in this case. But I'm gonna walk farther up this way here. Now you can see right here, if you look in the other video that I'm going to have in the description, this spot has gotten a little bit more bare from where the cattle came in and started trampling it in, but it was also because some of the water had sat here. So far we haven't fully fixed this. Now up here, this is where we had not been able to get any growth in yet, and this goes all the way up there to those chicken houses. Those are the landowners, the same owner that owns this land. He owns those chicken houses, and all of that water is funneled down into this one little spot here. This is something that NRCS did, and it's not working too well because we're really starting to get some bad washouts along here, and you can see how bad that is. Now we did, just through good solid rotational grazing methods, we were able to heal a lot of that up, and that's the smaller stuff. But now we're trying to work on this up in here, and I'm gonna walk out through here and show y'all just how bad some of this is. And you can see it's on two sides here. Might be kind of hard to see some of it through all the weeds, but it's pretty rough. So just bear with me here if I go to shaking this camera around too much. Now up in here we've fed one bale right here, and we did this because you can see how the walls are sloped off. That was a straight drop, and it would swallow me all the way up. We tried to make a video of me inside there, and it was all the way up to my head earlier, but the phone died when I was trying to make the video, so we weren't able to get that. What we did was feed a bale in there and rolled it down right here in order to get some trampling. And right here where the majority of the hay was, it really sloped it out. It was a straight drop, and there was no growth able to be there. And then we're going to walk up a little bit farther and show y'all a lot of this, how bad it got. This is really, really bad washouts. And the straight drop here, like this right here, we're just not able to support any growth like this. A lot of people talk about, well, you got to have clay, you got to have good red dirt to hold ground together. And you're right, good red clay does pack in very well. The problem is it doesn't necessarily support grass. So if you're talking about out here in your pasture, and you're not talking about somewhere where where you can get all your drainage just right and all like that, it's not necessarily what you want. You need some topsoil, and you need some organic matter. And you can see here the weeds grew up so tall, which is not the worst thing, except for the problem is it's smothering the sunlight and not making it to where we can't get anything down in here. And the way NRCS set this up is a very small spot, and there's no water here. So we can't mob graze them in here. Otherwise, this system would probably work quite well. But there's no way to do it unless I bring some temporary water, and I haven't been able to do it because of where this is. So that's not something I've been able to do. So then we're forced to leave those gates open down there and let them come in here whenever they want. Now it's still only when we put them in this pasture that they're in there, but it's not, they're not going to come in here and graze a lot of these weeds down. It's better since I've taken over management, but it's still not right. You can see there, I mean, that's a hole there, and this is just going to continue to get worse unless we can get some growth on here. My personal opinion as to what we really need to do is go all the way up here to where it comes out and actually make a little lagoon. That's what I think would be the best thing you could do. Make a very small lagoon, break all that water up, but a deep lagoon. And that would give the cattle water, another little watering hole. But the main thing is that it would dramatically slow the water down. I call it fighting water with water. Any place that I've ever seen, you know, you put rocks, you put all kinds of stuff to try to slow water down. And I mean, they got tons of rocks in here, big old rocks, to slow the water down and break it up. But then it's still, by the time it gets all the way down to the bottom of that hill, it still starts cutting into the ground. And they had terraces all in here, and it didn't matter. It wasn't enough. But water, I've noticed, when water comes into water, it slows it down dramatically. So my opinion, now I can't do this because NRCS has the contract on this and we're not allowed to do anything with it right now. But my opinion is if we could have a small lagoon in here but incredibly deep to soak up and absorb a lot of that water and slow it down, and then have a massive terrace right across the very front of it, and instead of having a little spot for it to drain, make it perfectly level across there to where it all comes off at the same time when it does drain off, and then put some terraces down in here, and then come in and mob graze, but then pull the cattle back off. I think that would be the most optimal system in this area, because that's chicken houses up there. That's 10 acres of land, 10 acres of water coming all on those chicken houses, draining all down and ending up coming out of that one, I think it's a 24-inch pipe, one pipe coming out of there. This is a lot of water, 10 acres of water coming down one spot. So it has to be taken care of right. But because of the contract, there's only so much we can do. So to try to keep a long story short without getting long-winded here, I'll tell you what we are trying to do to work with this. I've got a bale of hay sitting right here. What we've been doing, we've got just a few cows, and we'll just bring them in here every now and then, and we're not going to do it all the time. We're not going to get too heavy on the grazing because we don't want to tear out the winter grass that's here. But we do want to trample down these old weeds, and we want to knock these, we want to take these walls here and we want to knock them down, because you can see where the growth stops. You can see that it stops right there. As soon as it's downhill, that sunlight, it does not get enough sunlight down in there. So we want to try to concave these hills right here so that they'll start supporting grass and they'll hold themselves together. I don't think that that's going to be 100% of a fix. There's just too much water here, but I do think it can help support this area and help it to be not so bad. So one thing we're doing is we're feeding hay. I've got to turn that bale around, it's backwards. We're feeding hay along this little spot right here. Kind of experimental, but it is something I've done and had success with in the past. Never something that's got quite this much water. So I will be curious to see how well it goes, and I'll probably end up making some more videos in the spring once we get into our spring rains and see just how well it's doing. But by putting this hay in this washout, one, it's not waste. Whatever they don't eat is not wasted. Of course, I don't think it's wasted anywhere because it's fertilizer and it's seed, but it's even less likely to be wasted here because anything that's left over is feeding your microbes here. It's holding soil together. The hay itself will hold the soil together and hold some of that washout from getting any worse. But also we're using the cattle to work for us. Instead of trying to get a piece of equipment in here and try to drag all this out and smooth it out, we could, but we're trying to use the cattle to work for us because we're already feeding the hay anyway. So why not kill two birds with one stone? So we're going to feed this, let the cattle smooth the edges off, and then hopefully get some winter grass back up through that area before we lose any of that soil. Now there's a chance we will lose some soil, but we're already losing some soil. The hope is to not lose any of it, to keep it all right there. And I kind of think maybe this method might work pretty good. Anyway, we're going to keep y'all posted and let y'all just keep on kind of following along with this and seeing how it's working out. Like I said, I'm going to post the other video that I got earlier from down there, from the very end of this little washout. I'm going to post that one. I'm going to put it in the description. And y'all can go down there and click on that link down there, and you can watch that one. You can kind of see we've already had some progress with that part. So I'm really hoping to get some more progress in this. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe.